ZUF and the rise of ZTA, the hidden war for land, identity and power. Welcome to Zalengam Media, your trusted window into the unseen realities of Northeast India, where history, politics and identity converge. Today, we explore the rising tension between the Zeliangrong United Front, ZUF, and its armed wing, the Zeliangrong Tiger Army, ZTA, as they confront both the NSCN-IM and the expanding ambitions of the Kuki movement, now transformed from the dream of Zalengam to a full-fledged demand for a union territory with legislature. The roots of rebellion, the Zeliangrong awakening. In the thick forests of Noney and Tamenglong, where rivers coil through ancient hills, a quiet fire of rebellion burns. The Zeliangrong people, Zim, Liangmai and Rongmei, have lived across the borders of Manipur, Nagaland and Assam for centuries. Once united under the spiritual legacy of Hepu Jadanang and Rani Gaidanliu, their dream of autonomy was repeatedly overshadowed by the louder, better-armed movements of others. By the early 2000s, frustration had matured into determination. The NSCN-IM, dominated by Tangkhul leadership, claimed to represent all Nagas, while the Kuki armed groups KNA, KNF, ZRA and others were carving out their own concept of Zalengam, a homeland for all Kuki-Zo people. Caught in between, the Zeliangrong realized they risked being erased. And thus, in 2011, the Zeliangrong United Front, ZUF, was born, an organization to reclaim the dignity, rights and land of the Zeliangrong people. Birth of ZTA, the Tiger Army rises. When diplomacy failed to protect their communities, the ZUF formed its armed wing, the Zeliangrong Tiger Army, ZTA. Named after the tiger, a symbol of courage and guardianship, the ZTA quickly became the militant face of Zeliangrong nationalism. Their goal was simple but defiant: to protect Zeliangrong villages from the influence of both NSCN-IM's internal domination and Kuki territorial advances. By 2014, ZTA training camps appeared across Noney, Kupam and Tamenglong. Young men, often disillusioned by the promises of other movements, joined their ranks. Reports surfaced of intense jungle drills, night patrols and oath ceremonies pledging allegiance to the Zeliangrong cause. The ZTA soon became a disciplined counterforce, a parallel power defending identity, land and history. Clash of ideologies, ZUF versus NSCN-IM. The conflict with NSCN-IM is not merely about guns, but about narratives. The NSCN-IM, since its inception, envisioned a greater Nagalim, encompassing all Naga-inhabited territories across the northeast and Myanmar. But for the Zeliangrong, this pan-Naga dream masked a hierarchy that marginalized their voices. The ZUF accused NSCN-IM of exploiting Zeliangrong regions for resources, ignoring Zeliangrong representation in its hierarchy, and undermining local traditions and heroes like Jadanang and Gaidanliu. From 2015 onwards, armed clashes between the two groups erupted along forest corridors in Noney and Tamenglong. ZTA cadres guarded village borders, while NSCN-IM patrols sought to assert control. Each side claimed to represent the true Naga vision, but their battles fractured the fragile tribal unity in Manipur's hills. For the ZUF, resisting NSCN-IM was not betrayal, it was self-preservation. The expanding Kuki claim, from Zalengam to Kuki State. Parallel to this internal Naga rift, the Kuki-Zo movement took shape. Originally inspired by the pre-independence dream of Zalengam, a homeland uniting all Kuki Chinmizo peoples, the idea gained new momentum in the 1990s and 2000s as Kuki insurgent groups consolidated under suspension of operation agreements with the Indian government. What began as a cultural aspiration soon evolved into a political campaign for a separate Kuki state within India. Over time, the demand sharpened. The Kuki State Demand Committee, KSDC, emerged, pushing for a recognized territorial unit carved from the Kuki-inhabited hills of Manipur. However, the 2023 Manipur ethnic conflict between Kukis and Meiteis radicalized this vision even further. Now, major Kuki-Zo organizations and civil bodies have coalesced around the demand for a union territory with legislature, seeking direct governance under New Delhi, a proposal they argue would ensure safety, equality and self-rule after months of violence and displacement. Thus, the Kuki demand has moved in 3 stages. 1. Zeliangrong, the historical homeland vision. 2. Kuki State, political realization within the Indian Union. 3. Union territory with legislature, administrative autonomy under central control. V. The 40-village contention, Zeliangrong Territory or overlap zone. Amidst these competing dreams, the ZUF and ZTA made their own decisive claim, the demand for recognition of 40 Zeliangrong villages as part of a unified Zeliangrong Territory. These villages lie in the overlapping border zones of Noney, Kangpokpi, Churachandpur, Jiribam and Furzal, districts that also contain large Kuki populations. The ZUF's position is rooted in ancestral land rights. They argue that these 40 villages, though placed under Kuki-dominated autonomous district councils, are historically and culturally Zeliangrong, deserving direct administrative connection to Noney or a proposed Zeliangrong district. ZUF statements often frame this as a struggle against extinction, not just political but existential. For the Kukis, however, such moves are viewed as encroachments on what they consider part of the Kuki-Zo homeland. The result: overlapping maps, competing councils and mounting tension. VI, ZTA's operations and cadre training. Recent intelligence and local reports confirm renewed ZTA activity. Training programs have been conducted in forested zones near Hayachong and Kupam, focusing on small unit tactics and territorial defense. Recruitment drives reportedly attract youth from villages, frustrated with both state neglect and external dominance. Some ex-NSCN-IM cadres have joined the ZTA, citing disillusionment with the tankhole-dominated structure. While the exact strength of ZTA remains classified, local estimates suggest several hundred active cadres operating in rotational units, with logistical bases spread across western Manipur. Publicly, ZUF describes these exercises as self-defense preparedness. Privately, it represents a preparation for endurance, an acknowledgement that in Manipur's volatile hills, identity and survival depend on readiness. VII, the shadow triangle NSCN-IM, ZUF-ZTA and Kuki forces. Manipur's western hills have become the stage for a complex three-cornered power struggle. The NSCN-IM seeking pan-Naga integration, the ZUF-ZTA defending Zeliangrong autonomy, and the Kuki armed groups pursuing the Union territory dream. Each holds its own administrative, cultural, and emotional geography. Sometimes alliances shift, moments of silent understanding occur, but distrust runs deep. For villagers living along the seams of these territories, loyalties are often torn. Who to pay tax to, who provides protection, which flag to honor? These questions define the daily uncertainty of life in these contested hills. VII, the 2023-2025 turmoil, ZTA's role during the Manipur violence. When violence erupted between the Kukis and Métis in May 2023, the Zeliangrong villages became buffer zones. The ZTA declared a policy of neutrality, vowing to protect only their people and territory. This stance shielded many communities from the wider chaos. ZTA patrols reportedly blocked incursions from both sides and maintained limited peace corridors between Tamenglong and Kangpokpi. Yet their growing presence also unsettled both the NSCN-IM and Kuki command structures, who viewed ZTA's consolidation as a challenge to their own territorial lines. Through 2024 and 2025, ZTA has increased visibility, holding parades on Zeliangrong Martyrs' Day and conducting community mobilization events emphasizing unity and vigilance. IX, the ideological divide between homeland and overlapping dreams. The region now faces a paradox of overlapping homelands. For the NSCN-IM, Nagalim remains the ultimate map, stretching from Arunachal to Assam and Manipur. For the Kukis, Zalengam has evolved into a quest for Union territoryhood. For the ZUF-ZTA, the Zeliangrong homeland stands as an ancestral right denied for too long. Each of these visions carries emotion, sacrifice and history. Yet they all intersect on the same mountains, rivers and valleys, forcing coexistence into competition. The challenge for policymakers is not just to manage violence, but to mediate identity. The hills of Manipur are no longer a binary of Naga and Kuki. The Zeliangrong have asserted their place as the third axis of hill politics. The ZUF political strategy between negotiation and defiance. In recent months, quiet signals have emerged of ZUF's willingness to engage in peace talks, but only under recognition of the Zeliangrong homeland demand. However, unlike the NSCN-IM, ZUF refuses to surrender its armed structure. The ZTA remains the backbone of its deterrence, a guarantor that their voice cannot be ignored. ZUF leaders insist that peace without identity is submission. Their vision, a semi-autonomous Zeliangrong Territorial Council, linked administratively across Manipur, Nagaland and Assam, echoing the dreams of their forebears. Until that day, the Tiger Army stands guard, patrolling, training and symbolizing an identity unwilling to vanish. Comparative landscape of demands. Community/group, original vision, current political demand, territorial overlap. NSCN-IM, Tanka-led Greater Nagalim separate Naga flag and constitution Tamenglong, Senapati Ukrol. ZUF-ZTA, Zeliangrong Unified Zeliangrong Zeliangrong Territory, 40 villages Noney, Tamenglong, Jiribam, Furzal. Kuki groups KNA, KNAB, KNF, ZI Zalengam Union Territory with legislature Churachandpur, Kangpokpi, Tengnupal. The overlapping circles of these aspirations form the real map of Manipur's hill politics, a geography defined by memory as much as by land. XII, the unfolding horizon, the road to recognition. As India's Home Ministry negotiates separate talks with various groups, ZUF's demand remains under consideration but not yet formalized. The Kuki-Zo leadership, meanwhile, continues its nationwide campaign for Union Territory status, supported by global diaspora activism. In contrast, NSCN-IM remains in protracted dialogue over constitutional symbols. The ZTA's quiet consolidation amid this chaos shows one truth: no force, however marginalized, will remain voiceless if it guards its people with conviction. XIII, conclusion, the tiger, the cross and the tricolor. The ZUF and its ZTA embody a paradox. They fight not for secession, but for recognition within India's mosaic. Their struggle mirrors the age-old dilemma of northeast India: identity versus integration, faith versus fear, land versus belonging. The Kuki demand for a union territory, the Naga push for integration, and the Zeliangrong assertion of self-rule represent three competing yet legitimate quests born of shared suffering. Their reconciliation, or their collision, will determine the peace of Manipur's hills in the coming decade. For now, the Tiger Army watches in silence. In their view, the hills must remember the promise made by their ancestors, that no people, however small, should live as strangers on their own land. Disclaimer: this documentary analysis is produced by Zalengam Media for educational, journalistic, and analytical purposes only. It aims to present historical and political developments based on verified regional reporting, public statements, and community documentation. The content does not promote or justify violence, nor does it endorse any armed group. It seeks to foster awareness and understanding of ongoing ethno-political dynamics in northeast India. Sources referenced: 1. Info Free Press. ZUF accuses NSCN-IM of exploiting Zeliangrong areas, July 2025. 2. EPOW, 8 cadres from other outfits join ZUF, August 2025. 3. East Mojo, Kuki demand evolves from Zalengam to Union Territory, October 2025. 4. The Hindu, Hill insurgencies in transition, Manipur's shifting alliances, 2024. 5. Nagaland Post, Framework Agreement fallout in Zeliangrong region, 2023. 6. India Today NE, Why 40 villages demand separation from Kuki-dominated councils, November 2025. 7. The Frontier Manipur, Zeliangrong vs NSCN, The Fight for Identity, 2022. 8. Morung Express, Life crippled in Kuki-Zo areas amid territorial protest, November 2025. 9. Times of India, Shutdowns in Manipur over boundary disputes, 2025. 10. SATP Data Reports, 2023-2025, Insurgent Activities in Western Manipur. If you believe the voices of the hills deserve to be heard, beyond propaganda, beyond silence. Backhand index pointing right. Subscribe to Zeliangrong Media on YouTube, Facebook and X. Your support amplifies indigenous journalism that brings the truth of Northeast India to the world. Stay aware, stay analytical, stay with the movement for understanding.